Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Nazir Ahmad and I am from Pakistan. Today we will learn about 12 tips for getting your manuscript published. These tips have been written by David A. Cook. He has affiliation with Mayo Clinic Online Learning USA and Mayo Clinic College of Medicine USA. Okay, let's start our presentation. Scholarly writing and research reporting are increasingly common in all areas of medicine, not least in health professions education. A junior first author would ideally implement these scientific writing tips in collaboration with an experienced mentor. 12 tips, but in this video we will cover only from 1 to 6 tips, but the rest from 7 to 12 we will cover in another video presentation. So only we will target today from 1 to 6. There are 3 parts, but we will take only one part today, like getting the manuscript ready, when you are rejected, when you are invited to revise. So let's start from here. Number one, plan early to get it out the door. Number two, address authorship and writing group expectations up front. Number three, maintain control of the writing. Number four, ensure complete reporting. Number five, use electronic reference management software. Number six, polish carefully before you submit. Tip number one, plan early to get it out the door. Perhaps the greatest challenge facing novice writers is the imperative to overcome writing inertia. To paraphrase Newton's first law, a manuscript in preparation will remain in preparation indefinitely unless acted upon by a motivated author. It will not get published as long as it sits on your desk. You need to get the manuscript off of your to-do list and onto someone else, namely the editors or reviewers. To make this happen, you need to write regularly, set ambitious goals, and refine the manuscript in stages. Some people believe that to write effectively, they need blocks of time, several days in a row, with several hours each day. This works in some cases, but all too often, those big blocks of time fail to materialize or get consumed by other tasks. It can also be cognitively overwhelming to write episodically to the point that some writers come to dread their writing day. Research suggests that those who write daily, even for short periods, for example 15 minutes per day, are substantially more productive than those who postpone writing until they have a large chunk of time. Another drawback to allowing time to lapse between writing sessions is the loss in continuity and efficiency. It takes time to remember where you left off and what issues needed to be addressed. Occasionally, if you are having trouble articulating a particularly difficult idea, it helps to step away for a period and then return with fresh eyes. But in general, it helps to write regularly, ideally daily, even if for only short periods. It helps to set ambitious yet realistic deadlines for yourself and your co-authors. Deadlines should push you to work hard and quickly. Conservative or comfortable deadlines will not accomplish this purpose. As Strunk and White noted, revising is part of writing. Few writers are so expert that they can produce what they are after on the first try. Using outlines and multiple progressively refined drafts will optimize organization and minimize the amount of wasted effort. For example, polishing text that is subsequently revised or deleted. It is for easier to visualize and manipulate the flow of logic using short bullet points than full sentences and paragraphs. Thus, I agree with William C. in advocating the liberal use of outlines, especially when drafting text that allows flexible organization, such as a research manuscript's introduction and discussion or a non-research scholarly article. Once the outline is complete, converting bullet points into sentences and paragraphs is straightforward. For this first rough idea draft, author is saying that I try to clearly articulate my thoughts, but I do not attempt to fine-tune each sentence. In subsequent drafts, I iteratively refine my thinking, shorten the text, clari- clarify meaning, and adjust individual words. Different parts of the manuscript may progress at different rates. For instance, I usually do not write the discussion until the other sections are nearly complete. At each stage, outline, rough idea draft, first final draft, and each fine-tuning draft, he said, I enlist uh, the aid of my co-authors with explicit instructions and objectives for that stage, such as focus on broad stroke ideas today, do not worry about fine-tuning, and ignore the discussion. Using outlines can help in later stages as well, such as when shortening the manuscript or making major revisions in response to reviewer comments. Converting a fully written introduction and discussion back into outline form allows one to easily find and eliminate redundancy, rearrange and merge paragraphs, and focus on the central message. Publishing tip 2, address authorship and writing group expectations upfront. Publishing a manuscript is usually a team effort. Decisions about authorship, including the order of authorship and the expectations and responsibilities of each co-author, should be made as early as possible. A full discussion of the issues surrounding qualifications for authorship is beyond the scope of current article in this presentation, but the but the recent guidelines indicate that authors must make substantial contributions to the conception, design, or data analysis and interpretation, and critically revise the manuscript for important intellectual content. Lesser contributions, including administrative, political, and funding support, and simple data analysis should be recognized with an acknowledgement. It helps to set clear expectations for each author before writing begins. This would ideally include a rough timeline and deadline. See tip number 1. The expected turnaround time for each draft, and any specific contributions such as manuscript sections, first, second, and senior author position should be finalized after these initial discussions. Tip number 3. Maintain control of the writing. One person, usually the first author, must be ultimately responsible for the final manuscript and all changes made during editing. Thus, when I'm the lead author, I maintain a single copy of a master document and edit this document to incorporate suggestions from co-authors, collaboratively editing documents online, such as using Google Docs or Dropbox, is increasingly popular and is useful for many activities in education, research, and administration. Yet I have found collaborative editing to be counterproductive when writing for publication because inconsistencies, redundancies, and omissions inevitably creep in when multiple authors jointly contribute untracked edits to a single shared document. Using track changes avoids this, but simply accepting changes suggested by co-authors is not advisable. First, co-authors suggested edits frequently contain small errors in spelling, punctuation, or grammar, often encouraged and obscured by the track changes format. Second, most suggestions require judgment and editing to prioritize the use of limited space, reconcile conflicts, avoid redundancy, trim words, integrate with other ideas, and avoid inaccuracies. To avoid these challenges, author said, I distribute a manuscript copy to all co-authors via email or a file sharing tool such as Dropbox and collect suggestions as track changes and embedded comments or occasionally as written comments on paper. I then integrate these responses and make needed edits to the separate master document. Tip number 4. Ensure complete reporting. It is often difficult for investigators, even as a team, to identify all of the information needed or expected by readers. Existing guidelines provide detailed suggestions for the abstract methods and results, but less direction for the title, introduction, and discussion. Author will therefore offer brief suggestions for the later three. First, the title is the shortest possible abstract. It is almost always the first thing a potential reader reads, and it may be the last if it does not catch his or her attention. Rather than being written as a last minute afterthought, the title should be the product of thoughtful effort by all authors. Author typically creates a list of keywords reflecting the manuscript's central message, use permutations of these to generate over a dozen tentative titles, and then solicit impressions from co-authors and other colleagues before selecting the best title. The introduction sets the stage for all that follows. It starts with a very broad problem and then focuses this problem through the lens of a conceptual framework or theory and a summary of prior work, literature review into a focused problem statement. The problem statement clearly identifies one important aspect of the broad problem that remains incompletely understood and highlights how a better understanding of this issue would advance the field as a whole. The problem statement is immediately followed by a statement of study intent, a research question, hypothesis, goal, or purpose that explains how the subsequent described study will fill that knowledge gap and thereby accomplish the needed advance. For example, although these studies suggest that adding more questions does not necessarily enhance learning, the interpretations are confounded by simultaneous variation in the type of questions, which in turn suggests the need for further research. Problem statement. Authors therefore sought to answer the question: does varying the number of self-assessment questions affect knowledge outcomes in web-based learning for medical residents? Research question. These four elements, conceptual framework, literature review, problem statement, and statement of study intent, combine to not only articulate a question but also to convince the reader that the answer remains unknown and that finding the answer is important. The discussion section of most research reports is for longer than needed and thereby consumes valuable space that could be used in other sections. Brevity is the soul of wit, and writing a focused yet informative discussion is an out-neglected part of manuscript preparation. Author has found three practices that help him stay focused and succinct. First, he imagines that no one except the editors and reviewers will read the entire discussion. Most readers read the first paragraph and many read the last, but he suspects that everything in between has a limited audience. As such, he focuses his efforts on crafting a concise summary of the study findings. First paragraph, you can see, highlighting well supported implications as last paragraph. Actually, these two words I added because I will share with you the DOI number. You can read these paragraph from there and address issues but would concern editors and reviewers. Second, the discussion section should focus on the study's objective findings and immediate justified implications. Limited speculation on the interpretation and application of findings is appropriate, but this is not the place to editorialize on issues only tangentially related to the study, even if uh, germane to the study topic. Third, to operationalize the first two suggestions, I organize said by author the discussion into four sections with subheading for the latter three. Summary, no heading, succinctly and objectively summarize the key findings without further elaboration. No citations to other sources, no interpretation. Limitations, more than just a list of limitations, an examination of how the study scope and design might influence the interpretation and application of findings. Integration with prior work focus on both theory and empiric research. Implications for practice and research. What readers can do differently now that they know these results. These implications should derive directly from the findings of the present study as interpreted in light of the limitations and integration and could anticipate effects on theory, practice, or future research. The implications replace the need for a separate conclusion section. The implications or the conclusion and should leave readers with a clear sense of how the study will influence their practice. Tip number 5. Use electronic reference management software. Writing a manuscript without the support of electronic reference management software is like building a bookcase using a hand drill instead of a power drill. Sure, you can do it, but it is a lot easier with the power tool. With reference management software, you create a list library of articles and books you wish to cite and then place a placeholder field code representing each reference in desired locations in your manuscript. The software formats these placeholders into the reference style required by the selected journal. Advantages include the abilities to reuse references in a new manuscript without retyping or copy and pasting. Insert a new reference near the top of the manuscript without manually renumbering the subsequent references. Share reference libraries with colleagues, make personal notes about a reference, and adjust the format style such as to meet another journal's requirements with the click of a button. Wikipedia currently lists over 30 software packages including purchased products such as EndNote and Reference Manager. Numerous free options such as Mendeley and Zotero. Beyond urging you to just do it, he suggests the following power user tips. Learn some skills beyond the rudimentary insert and format functions. Useful tasks include tweaking the formatting styles. In my experience, journal-specific templates don't match perfectly with actual journal requirements. Adding text such as page numbers to the in-text citation, finding and eliminating duplicate entries, and exporting libraries to share with a colleague or import into another program such as Excel. Use PubMed and journal websites to add articles to your library rather than entering these by hand. Use self-entered notes to organize, sort, and search for references within your library. Copy and share references or entire libraries with others. Site You Like is a free internet service dedicated to promoting such sharing. Consider turning off the instant formatting feature offered by several programs and notes site while you write. While useful if you are the sole author, it gets messy if collaborators delete or move text or if you track changes. Correct any errors in the reference list at their source, usually the library entry or journal specific template, rather than making edits directly to the reference list in your manuscript. If the same reference appears twice in the reference list, there are probably two library entries for that reference. Missing information or other problems with the reference list formatting could indicate an error in that reference's library entry or in the journal specific formatting template. As a final step before submission, you will need to convert the document with dynamic placeholders to a placeholder free text only document. Convert to plain text in EndNote. Save a separate copy of the final unformatted placeholder version to use as a starting point when making revisions. Tip number 6. Polish carefully before they submit. Editors will help you tailor your message to their audience, but you should not expect them but you should not expect them to correct poor grammar or typographical errors. Errors are inconsistencies in writing or formatting, impaired understanding, suggest rightly or wrongly, sloppiness in the scientific rigor, and will require extra effort from the editorial team, none of which will improve your chances of manuscript acceptance. The notion of polishing need not conflict with the tip to get the manuscript out the door. Polishing does not necessarily add a lot of time, but but it does require deliberate planning and effort. The following tips will prevent common errors. Use a consistent font style for each level of subheading, such as bold and all capitals for main section headings. Level 1. Bold and first letter capitalized for level 2 subheadings, etc. Word processing styles can help maintain this consistency. Some journals have specific subheading format requirements. Use abbreviations and acronym sparingly. Many abbreviations commonly used in a narrow specialty, and all abbreviations invented by the research team will be unfamiliar to most readers. Define such abbreviations, or better yet, eliminate them altogether. Review the title of each table and figure to ensure that it accurately and completely describes the information contained therein, and carefully proofread table, figure, footnotes, and legends. Ensure that footnotes define all abbreviations, uh, clarify any apparent inconsistencies, such as percentages that do not sum to 100% or response rates that vary across table cells, and explain key analysis. Uh, Table 2 contains additional tips for constructing tables and figures that confirm that data and other details in the abstract match those in the main text. Similarly, verify the match between tables and figures and the main text and abstract. Verify the format and accuracy of each reference, including adherence to the journal formatting style. Remove all comments and resolve all track changes. He always reads the entire final draft, including abstract and tables, out loud because I have found this helps him to identify awkward sentences and grammatical errors. It is also helpful to ask a non-co-author colleagues to read the manuscript to identify awkward sentences, logical inconsistencies, missing information, and simple errors for those writing in a non-native language. A skilled native speaker should always proofread the manuscript, not that just because someone speaks English does not mean he or she is good writer or good proofreader. William C. enumerated several additional suggestions for those writers writing in a non-native language. Thank you so much for watching my presentation. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and press the bell icon button. To link to this article, please go through this DOI.